It keeps happening at the exact moment you start to believe this month might finally feel different. The payment clears, the pressure loosens for one breath, and then something reaches in almost immediately. A charge you forgot, a delay that makes no sense, a problem that waits until you exhale before it shows itself. You have been calling it bad timing, but that is not what this is. Something in you has been reacting to financial relief as if relief itself were the danger, and tonight that pattern is more exposed than it has ever been. This didn't reach you by accident, not in the casual way people usually mean that. There is a very specific version of you that had to be present for this, to even register the one who has already started noticing the pattern, but couldn't quite explain it without sounding irrational, even to yourself. The part of you that tracks your account balance and your body at the same time, that quiet moment when the number goes up and your shoulders drop for half a second, and then something inside you tightens again before anything external has even happened yet. Before we go any further, shift slightly where you are. Let your shoulders fall without forcing them. Notice your jaw. There's a subtle grip there most of the time that you don't consciously choose. Let it loosen. Place your feet flat, if they aren't already. This is not about calming down or doing a technique. It's about allowing your body to stop bracing long enough to register what's already happening, because what is moving through this moment is not something you just listen to and move on from. You either stay at the surface of it, or you meet it fully. And the fact that you are still here, still paying attention already, says something most people would never admit. They felt this before they understood it. There is a layer of your awareness that recognized this pattern before your conscious mind ever named it. That layer is the same one that aligned you with this exact moment. Not through randomness, not through an algorithm alone, but through a kind of internal signal that only activates when a threshold has already been crossed. You didn't come here to learn something new. You came here because something in you is already changing, and this is catching up to it. And what's about to unfold isn't designed to comfort you. It's designed to show you where the pattern actually lives, not in your effort, not in your discipline, somewhere much deeper than that. You've already lived this enough times that you don't even react the same way anymore. At first it felt random. Then it started to feel suspicious. Now, it just feels familiar, in a way that's almost expected. You push, you focus, you show up, and something finally moves. Money comes in, not huge, but enough to shift the pressure slightly, enough for your body to soften for a moment. And it's always that exact moment, not before, not hours later. Right when your system begins to believe it can rest. That's when something interrupts it. A payment that reverses. A client who suddenly disappears without explanation. An expense that wasn't there yesterday but is unavoidable now. It doesn't feel chaotic. It feels precise. Like something waited for you to drop your guard before it moved. You've tried to fix this logically. Budgeting harder. Tracking every number. Holding tighter control. You've tried to fix it psychologically, rewriting beliefs, watching your thoughts, catching negative patterns, and you've tried to fix it energetically. Visualizations, gratitude, affirmations, sitting with the idea that abundance is safe, and parts of that worked. It wasn't useless. It got you further than before, but it never changed this one thing. You still couldn't keep it, and that's the part that doesn't make sense if you only look at it from the surface. Because this isn't about your ability to earn. You've proven that already. This is about what happens inside you the moment earning turns into having. There's a subtle shift that most people miss. You don't. That's why this is starting to feel uncomfortable in its accuracy. Right when things begin to stabilize, your body doesn't fully relax. It hesitates, almost like it's waiting. And if you pay close enough attention, there's a quiet signal underneath everything else, a low at constant readiness for something to go wrong. That signal has been running longer than you realize, longer than your current situation, longer than your current habits. It doesn't come from one bad experience or one mistake you made. It feels older than that, more embedded. And the fact that you can recognize yourself in this right now, not intellectually, but in your body, in that slight tightening, or that quiet, yes, this is exactly it. Yes, go to the comments and type 717. Don't overthink it. 717 marks the moment you stopped calling this random and started seeing the pattern for what it is. What you're noticing isn't a surface habit. It's not just a mindset glitch or a discipline gap you can fix by trying harder. The moment your system shifts from earning into having something deeper, takes over a response that doesn't ask your permission. There's a part of your body that has never learned how to interpret financial relief as safe. It doesn't celebrate stability. It questions it. It scans it. It waits for what usually comes next. And that reaction isn't happening in your thoughts first. It's happening underneath them. When money arrives and your environment hasn't changed in a threatening way, your body still runs a quiet check. Not consciously, automatically. It reads the drop in pressure, the slight exhale, the loosening of urgency, and instead of settling it, flags that moment as unstable. Because in the deeper wiring of your system, ease has been paired with risk, not as an idea, as a pattern. There's a physiological shift that happens when you move out of stress. Your system downregulates. The constant scanning slows. Your awareness widens. In a stable system, that's where integration happens. Gains settle. What you created becomes something you can actually hold. But in your system, that downshift triggers something else. A quiet alert. Not loud, not dramatic, just enough to redirect everything. And from that point, your attention subtly reorganizes. You start noticing what could go wrong. You feel a pull to check something, fix something, prepare for something. Decisions shift slightly. Timing shifts slightly. Even the way you respond to incoming situations shifts just enough to recreate the outcome you've been experiencing. It doesn't look like sabotage when you're inside it. It looks like reacting to reality. But what you're reacting to is being shaped in real time by that underlying signal. And this is the part most people never reach, because it doesn't sit in your conscious beliefs alone. It operates through your nervous system, your attention, and the way your body interprets safety itself. If something in your chest just tightened slightly when you heard that, or if there was a quiet moment where you felt seen in a way that wasn't entirely comfortable, go to the comments and type 202. That marks the moment the mechanism stopped being invisible. What you've been calling a financial pattern is actually a coordinated response between your body, your attention, and the signal your system broadcasts when it starts to feel safe. When pressure is high, your system sharpens. You move faster, think clearer, respond decisively. There's urgency, and strangely, that urgency has a kind of stability to it. You know what to do inside it. You know how to operate when something is at stake. But the moment that pressure drops even slightly, something else takes its place. Not peace, suspicion. Your breathing changes before you notice it. Your focus widens, but not in a relaxed way, in a searching way. Your awareness starts scanning for what you missed. Not because anything is wrong, but because your system has learned that the moment you stop scanning is when things tend to go wrong. So instead of integrating what just arrived, your attention quietly shifts toward preventing loss. And that shift is subtle enough that you don't call it a shift. You call it being responsible, staying on top of things, being realistic, not getting too comfortable. But underneath that, your internal state is no longer aligned with holding what you just created. It's aligned with bracing, and your body doesn't separate internal state from external reality. It treats them as one continuous signal. The way you feel becomes the filter through which you interpret what's happening, and that filter starts selecting for confirmation You notice the email that didn't come through, the delay that feels slightly off, the small inconsistency that most people would ignore. Your response tightens just enough to alter the interaction. Not drastically, just enough to shift the outcome. And over time, that creates a pattern that looks external, but is being stabilized from within. This is where most explanations stop. They say you have limiting beliefs, or that you need to raise your frequency and then leave you there. But what's actually happening is more specific than that. Your system has linked financial ease with a coming correction. So when ease appears, it begins preparing for impact. Not consciously. Structurally. That preparation changes how you hold money. It changes how long it stays. It changes the timing of what enters and what leaves. And the part that's hardest to admit is that it feels safer to stay in motion than to fully receive, because motion gives you a sense of control. Stillness doesn't. So the moment stillness starts to form something in you, disrupts it, not because you want to lose what you gained, but because your system doesn't trust what happens next if you don't. And if you're noticing right now that your body is not completely relaxed, even as you're listening, that there's still a low-level tension, a readiness, a subtle resistance to fully settling, that's not random. That's the exact point where this pattern has been running. And this is where it begins to shift. And this is where most people pull back without realizing they're doing it. Because what comes next doesn't ask you to think about the pattern. It asks you to feel where it has been sitting the entire time. Not as an idea, but as a physical imprint your body has been maintaining for years. Bring your attention slowly into the space just above your navel. You don't need to force anything. Just notice what's there. There's usually a kind of quiet tension in that area that never fully leaves even when nothing is actively wrong. It's subtle, but it's constant. Like your system never fully hands control over to rest. Stay there for a moment longer than you normally would. Most people don't, because the instant you stop moving your attention away, something becomes more obvious. The tension isn't random. It has direction. It pulls slightly upward, almost like it's trying to keep your body from dropping into a deeper state of ease. And underneath that pull, there's a quieter layer. Not tension exactly. More like a held breath that never completed. That's the point where your system has been interrupting the transition from effort into receiving. Now, let your breath move into that space, not in a forced, controlled way, just enough that your body registers. You're no longer ignoring it. You might feel resistance. You might feel nothing at first. Both are part of it. Then, shift your awareness upward into the center of your chest. Not the surface, but a little deeper. There's often a protective hold there that doesn't feel like fear. It feels like readiness. Like something in you is always prepared to adjust, to respond, to correct. That readiness has been useful. It helped you navigate instability. It helped you stay functional when things weren't predictable. But it also means you never fully land in moments where nothing needs to be fixed. And that's exactly where receiving would normally settle. Now, bring your attention all the way down to the base of your body, not to analyze it, just to notice. There's a deeper layer there that doesn't move quickly. It doesn't respond immediately. It holds memory differently, slower, heavier. This is where the oldest part of the pattern sits. Not as a story you can recall, but as a baseline. Your system learned long before you understood money, safety, or stability in the way you do now. You don't need to change anything here. That's the part most people get wrong. They try to fix it, shift it, release it. Right now, the shift begins by not interrupting it, by staying present without immediately trying to move away. And if you're noticing that your body is reacting in small ways, your breath changing your posture, adjusting your attention, wanting to drift away, go to the comments and type 404. That marks the moment you stayed, instead of leaving the pattern unnoticed. Because what's happening here isn't theoretical anymore. It's active, And this is the point where something either repeats or quietly breaks, because for the first time, you're not reacting to the pattern. You're watching it from inside your own body while it's active. And that changes the direction of it in a way that doesn't look dramatic from the outside, but feels completely different internally. Stay exactly where your awareness is for a moment longer. Notice what didn't happen. The usual urge to shift, to fix, to move on. It softened. Not completely gone, but interrupted just enough that something else could appear underneath it. That something else is unfamiliar. And that's why your system doesn't immediately trust it. It feels like stillness, but without the tension that usually comes with waiting for something to go wrong. And your body doesn't know what to do with that yet, because up until now, stillness has always been temporary. A pause before correction, a moment before something gets taken, delayed, or reversed. But right now, you're inside a version of stillness that isn't collapsing. That's the shift, not the idea of change. The actual interruption of the reflex that used to follow automatically. Your system is registering it in real time. That's why everything feels slightly different, but hard to explain. Your breath isn't forcing itself. Your chest isn't bracing the same way. That low-level urgency. It's not driving your attention like it usually does. And even if it tries to come back in small waves, you're seeing it now as it forms, instead of being carried by it. That alone changes what happens next, because the loop depended on you not noticing the moment it activated. It needed you to identify with the response, so it could run uninterrupted. You just broke that sequence, not permanently yet, but clearly enough that your system can't pretend it's invisible anymore. And from here, something new becomes possible that wasn't available before. You can let something arrive without immediately preparing to lose it. You can feel a shift in your situation without bracing for correction. You can stay in the moment where things are okay without rushing past it or tightening against it. That doesn't feel natural yet, but it's no longer inaccessible. And if you can feel even slightly that something in your body just reorganized, not dramatically, but enough that you're aware of it, go to the comments and type 909. That marks the moment your system stopped running the old response automatically and started recognizing a different option. Stay with that for a moment longer than feels necessary. Not because something else needs to happen, but because your system is still deciding what to do with what just changed. There's a quiet period right after an interruption like this, where the old pattern tries to reassemble itself, not forcefully, but subtly. Through familiar thoughts, through small urges, through that almost automatic pull to go check something, fix something, anticipate something. If that happens, notice it without following it, because this is the part that determines whether the shift integrates or dissolves back into habit. Over the next couple of days, you're going to see small differences that are easy to dismiss if you're not paying attention. Not dramatic windfalls, not instant transformation, something quieter. A moment where money arrives and you don't tense the same way. A situation that would normally create pressure and somehow doesn't land as heavily. A delay that doesn't trigger the same internal response. Those are not coincidences. They are indicators that your system is reorganizing how it interprets stability. You may also notice the opposite at times. A brief return of the old feeling. A wave of tension that seems out of place. That's not failure. That's the pattern attempting to run again in a system that has already seen through it. It won't feel the same. It won't hold the same authority it used to. Let those moments pass without engaging them. Hydrate more than usual. Let your body rest without questioning whether you've earned it. Pay attention to your breathing when nothing is wrong. These aren't instructions to fix anything. They're ways to let the recalibration settle instead of being overridden. And most importantly, watch what begins to arrive without the usual effort attached to it. Not because something external suddenly decided to change for you, but because the way your system receives and holds has already begun to shift. But this is only the interruption of the surface pattern. The reflex you felt today, the one that activates when relief begins, is not the root. It's the outer layer of something deeper that has been running far longer than your current life patterns. There is a structure beneath it, a kind of inherited blueprint that doesn't just influence how you respond to money, but how you interpret safety, stability, and permanence itself. What you touched here opened access to that layer. Most people stop at this point because the immediate pressure is gone. The pattern softens. Things feel lighter, and they assume that was the whole mechanism. It isn't. There is a deeper code that determines why the pattern formed this way in the first place, and why it has repeated with such precision across different situations, different numbers, different phases of your life. That layer is already close enough for you to feel now. If you leave here and go back to distraction, it fades. If you stay in this state a little longer, something else begins to surface. You'll notice it not as a clear thought, but as a question that feels more like a pull than a curiosity. That's where the next shift begins, and it's already in front of you.